Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to this week's Pinball Effects challenge video. Today we're going to talk about the one ball challenge we had on PinBot from last week, and then we're going to finish up with Williams Volume 9 on none other than Who Done It from 1995, also designed by Dwight Sullivan and Barry Oursler. So the way I want to talk about this week's table PinBot, I first want to talk about kind of the political and social culture of 1986, which is when PinBot was released. So in 1986, the Cold War was still going on. The Cold War didn't end until I think 1991. So it was still kind of fresh in people's minds and on the news. So, you had the Cold War going on between the U.S. and under Ronald Reagan and the Soviet Union with Mikhail Gorbachev. And what's important to note about this is that PinBot and even TAXI was sort of like, in my opinion, a take on the social and political culture of the late 80s. Because remember, Gorby was referenced in TAXI, and TAXI was released in 1988. So it was very much still in the minds of designers like Barry Oursler, Mark Ritchie, Python Angelo, right? And so that's why in both PinBot and even TAXI, you still see references to the Cold War, right? By 1986, something that was kind of very popular in terms of like science and technology was the space race. And so that's why a lot of pinball tables and solid states from the 80s are space related, right? You can think of a lot, Space Shuttle from Williams, Black Hole from Gottlieb, and the list goes on. Galaxy from Stern. There's just this fascination with outer space. So just remember, by 1986, you still had the Cold War going on, but it started the groundwork for peace and arms reduction when Reagan met with Soviet leader Gorbachev in a summit. You also had the Chernobyl disaster in modern-day Ukraine that leaked large amounts of radiation into the atmosphere, which was very, it made, the Cold War tensions even more tense because of something like that happening, right? With storing nuclear energy. And so, even today, you can still visit the Chernobyl site, but under very strict regulations, and there is an exclusion zone. You can't go anywhere else. Pretty much the radiation levels have been they're like nominal. They're not really there anymore, but you never know. So you had the Chernobyl disaster. You had the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion in 1986, where the shuttle disintegrated shortly after launch because of an O-ring failure in the boosters. So you had, this space race, this Cold War going on, and you had a lot of disasters kind of relating to both, right? Chernobyl with this nuclear power plant, and then you had the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. And so these were like the main things that were taking up the news cycle day to day. So you can kind of tell that space exploration and politics kind of shared the same stage. But also, aside from those, besides the Cold War and the space age and space race, you still had blockbusters, popular movies of 1986, which included Top Gun, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and of course Aliens, which was a really big hit. You also had sitcoms that were popular on TV, including MacGyver, Knight Rider, Family Ties. Personal computers were starting to enter the mainstream with IBM's and Apple Macintosh, but they weren't really, it wasn't like it is today. You also had the relaunch of the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, after the video game crash of 1983. So you had the NES that have relaunched officially in the US in 1986, and titles like Super Mario Brothers was really popular. In the daily life, you had mall culture was at its peak. Going to malls where you would eat, hang out with friends, arcades, go see a movie was the peak by 1986. A lot of people had big hair, wore bright colors. Music videos like MTV were very popular. And so that was sort of the social and political climate of specifically 1986 when PinBot was released. And I think that's why PinBot was sort of successful, because it was kind of like a commentary on things that were going on and things that were important to people in America who were playing pinball, right? And so that's what I want to say about PinBot, is that it is kind of like it's a piece of artwork on social commentary. And just like Taxi was a little bit like that too, because remember, you still had references to Gorbachev. It wasn't as much as PinBot, but you still have those Cold War references. And so when you think about that today, you think about how modern tables are made. And I can't really see any modern pinball company making like a table based on what's going on today, because of how tense and how much political correctness has gone, right? So I really can't see like Stern making a pinball table on anything related to politics or anything like that. I think Stern and these major companies are kind of going to step away from that and just keep with the IPs, licensed IPs, which is not bad, right? I mean, but it's interesting to me that before licensed IPs took off, that pinball designers were kind of making original designs that were still kind of based on what was happening within pop culture. But what's also kind of cool to me when you think about PinBot in 1986, and you think about the space race, the Cold War that was going on, and this kind of optimistic futurism in America and around the world, you kind of compare it to today, where AI is sort of the main topic with what's going on, right? So if PinBot was released in today, maybe PinBot would be more a machine based on AI. So I'm thinking, if Williams was still in the industry, I'm thinking if they were going to make a table based on pop culture today, it would be a table that was completely AI. They would, somehow work AI into the pinball machine. And now that I think about it, that would be kind of neat. Like a pinball machine that is like AI somehow. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, you can see that there's AI artwork on Sakari tables in the new update, but I'm thinking like a table that's like uses artificial intelligence in some way. And also, what's important to note is that AI didn't begin just recently. It started all the way back in the 40s and 50s with, what's his name? Alan Turing, who proposed the idea of the universal machine and the Turing test. But really, it wasn't until like 1997 was a huge milestone, because IBM's Deep Blue defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov. So that was a huge thing, that an artificial intelligence, an AI machine, could defeat a human being, a world chess champion, Garry Kasparov. And then by the 2010s to the present day, you had advances in machine learning, deep learning, you had more computing power. And so really AI has kind of taken off, and you see that pretty much everywhere now. I think AI is even like there's AI sites that can make other sites. AI 3D printing I think is even part of that. And so AI is what is kind of replacing things that were done by humans. So it's a big deal now. And that is kind of what's going on. That's the zeitgeist of our modern culture. And also, finally, you can't talk about PinBot without mentioning its other, companion parts, right? Bride of PinBot from 1991 and Jackbot from 1995. And what is cool about PinBot and what stands out about it is it's not only the concept of its robotic theme in outer space, but really it's kind of digitized speech, because by 1986, speech in Pinball was sort of not, wasn't a norm. So it really stood out. You'll even hear Pinbot say "I see you" when you lock the balls for the eyes. You also had the Bride of Pinbot, which took it a step further with more speech, even talking during a track mode. And then, of course, Jackbot had the DMD plus the speech. So really kind of an amazing trio of tables, and good to see that Pinball FX has PinBot and Bride of Pinbot. I'd be curious to see if they add Jackbot to complete the trio. Only time will tell, right? But yeah, that's what I want you to understand and take. And what I took from it was, specifically the year that this machine was released, you had Cold War tensions still going on. Remember that, Gorbachev was still referenced in Taxi, also from Barry Oursler and Python Angelo. You still had disasters related to, nuclear power plants. In Chernobyl, you had the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion in January of 1986. So that was pretty much the climate of the time. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about a little bit mechanics. So the mechanics that I really like about PinBot is the ski ball skill shot. You ever gone to like Chuck E. Cheese or like arcade, and they still have these things? They have what they call a ski ball, and you roll the ball and it goes into one of the holes, and that's what this skill shot, this vortex skill shot, really reminds me of. And I think it's a cool one. But I think most players, including myself, would always used to think the top hole was the most points, but actually the middle hole gives you 100,000. And I think on the actual ski ball, I think the top hole gives you the most points. But that's for another video, right? So I like that. I like how you have the mini pachinko playfield. It's kind of like integrating pachinko style with pinball, how the ball can roll down from the pachinko playfield into the bumpers, or it can go back to the plunger lane for vortex, increased vortex value, or goes back to the right in lane. I also like the visor matrix in the middle. You didn't really see that a lot in pinball. This light show with the matrix. It looks a little confusing at first, but it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. And I like too how you have the ramp that lifts up to get the energy value shot, which is kind of neat. You don't see that even too much in pinball today. A ramp that lifts up with like a spot target underneath. And of course the left ramp shot. But really when you think about PinBot, it's very similar to both Bride of PinBot and Jackbot, kind of looks wise. So you can't think about PinBot without mentioning those two other tables. But Bride of PinBot has that 1 billion shot that kind of, for better or worse, kind of makes that table a little less competitive, because if you can get that 1 billion, you pretty much, that's the only shot people go for, right? But on PinBot, you really don't have that. You have some decent awards from the saucer. You have extra balls that you can get, but there is no really like major, you know, you can get your vortex value up to 10 times, or you can advance planets, but you also have double scoring. So there's ways to play this table that can, you know, that can make your score more efficient. So it is one of those tables, but I had a fun time with it. Really, this was the first time I enjoyed PinBot. Got to the sun, as you saw in that video, and pretty much understood the rules for this table. It's not complicated, not that complicated. You know, you lock balls, and then you go back to the plunger. You lock 2 balls, you get double scoring, and then you can get the solar eclipse shot, which you can build up. So it's not overly complicated, which I like, but it's got enough of a rule set. And so, yeah, that's that. Hope you guys enjoyed. And let's look at the leaderboard here. So we had a closed tournament with 10 attempts and 13 people. And first place, shout out to Krobs with 2,512,000. Congratulations, Krobs, on that first place podium. I think, because I remember seeing Gatvik ahead in first, so Krobs must have beat Gatvik later in the week. But congratulations to you, Krobs, for that first place. I want to say Krobs has gotten first before in our tournaments. I just can't remember which one. But in any event, congratulations to you, Krobs, in that first place spot. Second place, we have Gatvik with 2,165,000. Very close scores for first and second. Couple 100,000, right? But Gatvik is a Williams guy, so you're going to see Gatvik in the top 5 at least, I want to say. In third place, to round out the podium, King Balchi 100 with 1,988,000. So close to 2 million, right? Congratulations to my arch nemesis Balchi there. In fourth place, Moonface Maddie with 1,825,000. So we haven't seen Moonface Maddie for a while. So welcome back, Moonface Maddie. As you guys might remember, Moonface Maddie is the king of Williams Whitewater. And we tried, that's why he has this background. So I like that. Welcome back, Moonface Maddie, and congratulations on fourth place. In fifth place, we have Carpy Sun with 1,326,000. So kind of close to fourth there. Very close scores. I mean, between first and even sixth, you know, I came in sixth with 1,036,000. In seventh place, we had Urko 1945 with 723,000. Eighth place, Genuines with 708,000. Ninth place, Fabled Scarab 79 with 648,000 points. Midnight, aka Wes, with 640,000 in 10th, to round it up. 11th place, we have UTD 4000 with 629,000. And in 12th place, we have Jabba with 578,000 points. And finally, in 13th place, Bad Jack Daniels with 351,000. So, really kind of competitive scores, because remember, this was only 10 attempts. So I'm sure if it was unlimited, it might be a little different. But this was a little bit more of a challenge, I'd say. Out of the 3 tables, out of Taxi, Who Dunnit, and PinBot, I think PinBot will probably be the most challenging out of all 3 of them. But now let's move on to this week's One Ball Challenge before we go back to the Zen Originals, right? So let's create a tournament here. This will be an open challenge on Who Dunnit, public, 1 ball, realistic, unlimited attempts, 6 days. 6 days, unlimited attempts, unlimited players, realistic, 1 ball, public. Let's go. So this is an easier one, I think, in terms of scoring. It's a little, so it'll be interesting how, what kind of modes we do, because I know on this one you can do that roulette wheel. So let's see. Okay, so you can't choose between novice. I think it's just standard. Oh yeah, let's go. Okay, so phone is ringing. We'll answer it.
Tell me more about Trixie.
It was just a matter of time before she and Tony became lovers.
Okay, so Tony is the culprit. Okay, Tony is the one. Let's go. That's right. Shoot flashing lane to catch. Okay. Now you want to be careful though, because you can easily then the lane switches. It's not an easy thing to do, honestly, with the lanes switching like this. So take your time. Okay. Spin. Nope, that's not it.
Hey, taxi.
Hey, taxi. Oh, no. There we go. Spin. Elevator madness. Okay. We have auto fire. There's so many modes. Elevator madness is intense. I like this. I wonder how the scores are gonna be, you know? Ow! Another elevator madness? Okay. Oh no!
Take a cab.
Okay. $5 million?
Follow that cab.
The phone is lit.
Tell me
I think
more about
you can get
Trixie.
$1 billion on this.
Trixie had always loved Tony.
Okay.
Hey, taxi.
Oh, that was close. Do we bet? Risk it
Come
for the
on,
biscuit.
baby, come on.
Yeah! Let's go. Easy 82. Okay, who done it? Trixie? Did I get that right? Okay. This part you gotta be careful of the roof. I'm gonna wait till it switches. No! No! Okay, well, I think you can easily get $1 billion with one ball, which is kind of crazy for scoring. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you next time for the Who Done It video.